In a village where dust-covered dreams, Glory's tears had become her daily bread. The village of Amiri lay under a restless sun, its red sand clinging to every footpath, every doorstep, every memory. Here, life moved slowly, but suffering moved fast. Hunger danced in many homes, and hope, if it existed at all, lived quietly, afraid to be noticed. This was the village that raised Glory. At just 22 years old, Glory's face looked young, but her eyes told a different story. They were tired eyes. Eyes that had seen too much, too early. 5 years ago, when her mother died, something precious was buried alongside her. Her mother had been her shield, her comfort, the only voice that ever spoke gently to her. When she was gone, silence took over Glory's life. Her father, Mr. Thomas, changed after that day. Once a hard-working farmer with a warm heart, grief turned him into a bitter man. He drank heavily, shouted often, and forgot what love looked like. Soon after, he married Mrs. Grace, a woman whose presence filled the house with tension instead of warmth. From the moment she arrived, Glory knew her life would never be the same. She was no longer treated as a daughter. She became help. Before the first rooster crowed, Glory was already awake, fetching water, sweeping the compound, lighting fires with trembling hands. She cooked meals she would never taste. She worked on the farm until her back ached and her palms burned. From dawn to dusk, her name was called only when something needed to be done. At night, she slept on a thin mat in the kitchen, her stomach empty, her heart heavier than her body. Sometimes she listened to laughter from the main room and wondered how joy could live so close to pain. The villagers saw everything. They whispered among themselves, shook their heads, and walked away. No one wanted to face Mr. Thomas's anger. Silence became easier than courage. And Glory learned early that suffering is often ignored when it wears a familiar face. Why was she punished for simply existing? Some nights, tears rolled down her cheeks without a sound. She pressed her face into the mat, afraid even her sorrow would offend someone. She prayed quietly, not for riches or miracles, but for peace. Maybe this pain is all I deserve, she sometimes thought. Her stepmother's words were sharp. Her father's anger was unpredictable. Each day stole a little more of her confidence, a little more of her voice. Dreams faded. The future felt locked behind a door she was never meant to open. Yet, deep inside Glory, something refused to die. Even when treated like nothing, she still carried herself with quiet dignity. Even when broken, she remained gentle. In a village where hope slowly died, Glory was learning to survive without love, without protection, and without a promise of tomorrow. That day, a father didn't sell crops, he sold his own blood. The sun stood high over the farm, burning the dry land and everyone working on it. Sweat rolled down Harrison's face as he lifted another heavy load of cassava. For 3 long months, he had cleared bushes, tilled the soil, planted crops, and carried sacks from morning until evening. His clothes were worn, his shoes torn, but his spirit remained strong. He had worked with one hope in his heart, his pay. That afternoon, tired and frustrated, Harrison walked toward Mr. Thomas's house. His legs felt heavy, but his voice was steady when he spoke. "Sir, please. I need my money today." Mr. Thomas leaned against the doorway, scratching his head, pretending to think. He had heard this request many times before. "Next week," he said casually. "Tomorrow. When I sell something." But tomorrow never came. Harrison swallowed hard. "Sir, I have worked for 3 months. I have waited patiently. Please pay me." Mr. Thomas's eyes shifted. Then, suddenly, they landed on someone else. Glory. She was in the compound, sweeping quietly, her head bowed, her body moving like a shadow that had learned not to be noticed. Her dress was faded, her hands rough from years of labor. And then Mr. Thomas laughed. A cold, careless laugh. "You want money," he said slowly. "Take that girl instead." The broom fell from Glory's hands. Harrison froze. "Sir, take who?" "My daughter," Mr. Thomas replied, pointing at Glory like she was an object. "She's useless here. Take her to the city. Let her follow you. That is your payment." For a moment, the world went silent. Glory's heart slammed against her chest. Her knees weakened, and her breath caught in her throat. "Daddy, please," she whispered. "No." Mr. Thomas's face hardened. "Shut up. You should be grateful someone wants you." From behind him, Mrs. Grace folded her arms and smiled. "Good," she said. "One less mouth to feed." Glory dropped to her knees, tears streaming down her face. She begged. She cried. She shook her head over and over again. But her words fell to the ground like dry leaves, unheard and unwanted. "Is this how my life ends, being given away like nothing?" she thought. Harrison looked at her then. Truly looked at her. He saw the pain in her eyes, the fear, the quiet strength hidden beneath years of suffering. Something stirred in his chest. "She's beautiful," he whispered, almost to himself. Mr. Thomas smirked. "What did you say?" After a long silence, Harrison lifted his head. "I'll take her." Just like that, Glory's life was sealed. No one held her. No one prayed for her. No one asked if her heart could survive such cruelty. She was being handed over, not as a daughter, not as a human being, but as a debt. That day, under the burning sun, a father chose alcohol over love, pride over responsibility, and cruelty over blood. She left her home crying, never knowing fate was walking beside her. Glory stood at the doorway of the house she had known all her life, her small black plastic bag clutched tightly in her hand. Inside it were a few worn clothes and memories she wished she could forget. No one hugged her. No one spoke words of comfort. The house felt cold, as if it had already forgotten her. Mrs. Grace turned away without looking back. Her father did not even step outside. For him, the matter was finished. As Glory walked out of the compound, her feet felt heavy, like the red dust was pulling her back. She paused for a moment and looked around, the cracked walls, the empty farm, the kitchen where she had cried herself to sleep so many nights. This place had broken her, yet it was the only home she had ever known. Behind the house, her little half-brother Sam stood quietly. Tears ran down his cheeks as he waved at her. Glory swallowed hard and waved back, forcing a weak smile she did not feel. That single goodbye cut deeper than all the insults she had endured. She followed Harrison down the dusty road without a word. The journey to the city was long and exhausting. The bus was crowded and hot, its engine groaning as it moved through towns and villages Glory had never seen before. She sat by the window, staring outside as trees, huts, and endless dusty roads passed by. Her heart felt tight. She did not know where she was going. She did not know what awaited her. She only knew she was leaving pain behind and walking into the unknown. Was this freedom, or another kind of prison? "God, please don't let this man be cruel like my father," she prayed silently. "I am tired of being afraid." Harrison sat quietly beside her, looking straight ahead. He did not touch her. He did not speak much. Every now and then, he glanced at her tired face and sighed softly, as if carrying a burden of his own. Glory noticed his silence and felt a strange mix of fear and comfort. He was a stranger. Yet he had not laughed at her pain. He had not insulted her tears. That alone felt unfamiliar. As the bus finally entered the city, everything changed. Tall buildings rose into the sky. Cars rushed past with bright lights. People walked quickly, as if time itself was chasing them. The noise, the movement, the life, it overwhelmed her. Glory held her bag tighter, afraid it was the only thing anchoring her to reality. She had never imagined a world this big. The bus stopped. The journey was over, but her questions were just beginning. As she stepped down, her legs trembled. Her heart raced. She took a deep breath, wiping tears she did not remember falling. She had been given away like payment. She had left with nothing but tears. And yet, somewhere deep within her, a fragile hope flickered, small, unsure, but alive. The man she feared would hurt her became her safest place. When they finally arrived, Glory expected another dark, broken place, somewhere cold and unkind, like the life she had always known. But what stood before her made her stop in surprise. Harrison led her through a quiet street and stopped in front of a tall black gate. When it opened, Glory's breath caught. The compound was wide and clean, flowers lining the walkway, a small fountain quietly singing in one corner. It looked like something from a dream she was never allowed to have. They did not stop at the big house. Instead, Harrison guided her to a small, neat building behind it. He opened the door and stepped aside. "This is where I stay," he said gently. "You can come in." Glory walked in slowly. There was a small sitting room, a simple kitchen, one bedroom, and a clean bathroom. The walls were plain, but everything was tidy. There was a bed with clean sheets. A door that locked. A roof that did not leak. To Glory, it felt like a palace. She stood still, unsure of what to do next. Years of fear had taught her to expect shouting, orders, and pain. But none came. "I just got a job here as a security guard," Harrison explained. "The woman who owns the house is kind. She allows me to stay here for free." Glory nodded, unable to speak. Her chest felt tight, not from fear this time, but from relief. She had not felt this kind of calm in years. That night, Harrison cooked for her. The smell of food filled the small room, and Glory watched him quietly from the doorway. No man had ever cooked for her before. No man had ever asked if she was tired. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, placing a plate in front of her. She nodded, her eyes shining. "Thank you." They ate in silence, but it was a peaceful silence. No insults. No shouting. No fear. For the first time in a long time, Glory slept deeply, without tears. The next morning, she woke to sunlight streaming through the window. Birds chirped softly. Outside. She sat up slowly, confused. Was this really her life now? Is it possible that peace can feel this gentle? She wondered. Days passed, and Harrison remained the same, patient, respectful, careful with his words. He never raised his voice. He never touched her without permission. He gave her space when she needed it and spoke kindly when she was ready to talk. One evening, Glory finally found the courage to speak. "I was scared of you," she admitted softly. "I thought you would hurt me, like my father." Harrison looked at her, pain flickering in his eyes. "I would never do that," he said. "You deserve better than what life has given you." Those words settled deep in her heart. Slowly, something began to change inside Glory. The tight knot of fear loosened. Her shoulders relaxed. Her smile, though faint, became real. She had been given to a poor man with nothing, but somehow, she had found something priceless. Respect. Safety. Peace. When money knocked at her door, her heart answered instead. The city had its own kind of temptation. It whispered promises through shiny cars, tall buildings, and soft words that sounded like opportunity. For Glory, those whispers first came from Daniel, the landlord's only son. The first time he entered the kitchen, Glory was busy cooking. The smell of soup filled the air as she stirred quietly, focused on her work. When she turned around, she found Daniel standing there, watching her closely, his eyes lingering longer than they should have. "You're beautiful," he said with a smile. My mother wasn't exaggerating. Glory lowered her head. "Good afternoon, sir," she replied softly, hoping politeness would end the conversation. But it didn't. Daniel returned again and again, each time with more confidence, more words, more attention that made Glory uncomfortable. He complimented her looks, her cooking, her calm nature. She tried to ignore it, telling herself not to create trouble where none existed. Still, something in his eyes felt wrong. Then one afternoon, he decided to stop pretending. "Let me be honest with you," Daniel said, stepping closer. "I like you. And I can change your life." Glory froze. He spoke of money like it was nothing. He spoke of education abroad, London, Canada, places Glory had only heard about in stories. He promised clothes, comfort, and a life without struggle. "All this," he said softly, "if you leave that poor man you're with." Her heart pounded. The words hung in the air, heavy and dangerous. Is this the price of dignity? She thought. Daniel continued, his voice colder now. "What future does he have? He's just a security guard. I can pay him off today. Or make him lose his job." For a brief moment, fear tried to rise inside her. But it did not stay. Glory lifted her head. With calm strength, she stepped back. "I am not interested," she said clearly. "I am married. And I respect my husband." Daniel laughed, disbelief in his eyes. "You're choosing poverty over comfort." She met his gaze without shaking. "I am choosing peace over greed." Her voice grew firmer. "My husband may not be rich today, but he treats me with respect. He gave me dignity when I had nothing. That matters more than money." Daniel's smile faded. Anger flashed across his face. "You will regret this." But Glory felt no regret. That evening, she told Harrison everything. She expected anger, maybe fear. Instead, he listened quietly, his eyes filled with emotion. "What did you tell him?" he asked. "I told him no," she said. "I told him I believe in you. I believe in us." Harrison pulled her into a gentle embrace, holding her as if she was something precious. "Thank you," he whispered. "You chose me when you didn't have to." That night, Glory slept with a peaceful heart. For the first time, she understood her own strength. She had been tested by wealth, tempted by escape, and offered an easier road. But she chose the harder path, the one built on love, respect, and loyalty. That day, a poor girl stood taller than the rich. The next morning, Glory woke with a heavy heart. The city was awake outside, but inside her chest, a storm raged. Daniel's words had not left her mind. The promises, the threats, the way he spoke of her husband like he was nothing, it all burned quietly inside her. She knew what she had to do. With steady steps, Glory walked to the main house. Her hands trembled slightly as she knocked on the door, but her eyes were clear. Mrs. Walker opened the door with a calm smile, one that quickly faded when she saw Glory's serious face. "My daughter, come inside," Mrs. Walker said gently. They sat across from each other in the wide, beautiful living room. Everything around Glory spoke of wealth, soft furniture, shining floors, comfort she had never known. But her heart was not impressed. "Ma," Glory began softly, I came to talk to you about your son. Mrs. Walker's face tightened. Daniel. What about him? Glory took a deep breath. He has been disturbing me. He offered me money, education abroad, and a life of comfort if I leave my husband. He even said he could pay Harrison off or make him lose his job. Silence filled the room. Mrs. Walker leaned back slowly, studying Glory. Then she spoke, carefully. My dear, Daniel only sees your potential. Opportunities like this don't come often. Think about your future. Glory's heart beat fast. Was this woman truly saying what she was hearing? Are you saying I should betray my marriage for comfort? Glory asked quietly. Mrs. Walker avoided her eyes. I am saying life is easier when you choose wisely. Is dignity really so cheap to the powerful? Glory thought. She stood up slowly, her voice calm but firm. With all due respect, Ma, I am not that kind of woman. I did not marry my husband because of money. I married him because he gave me peace when the world gave me pain. Her eyes filled with tears, but she did not stop. I was given away like payment. I was treated like nothing. And when I finally found respect, you expect me to trade it for comfort? Mrs. Walker said nothing. Glory wiped her tears and straightened her shoulders. I will not be bought. If staying here means losing my self-respect, then we will leave. I would rather struggle in peace than live in luxury with shame. She turned and walked out of the house, her heart pounding, her legs shaking, but her spirit unbroken. Outside, the air felt lighter. She had no idea what tomorrow would bring, but one thing was certain. She had chosen herself. The poor man removed his mask, and the world froze. That evening, Harrison came home later than usual. His steps were slow, his face unusually serious. Glory noticed it the moment he walked in. The small room felt heavier, as if the walls themselves were waiting for something to be said. Harrison, is everything okay? She asked softly. He did not answer right away. Instead, he sat down across from her, folding his hands together. For a long moment, he only looked at her, really looked at her, with a mixture of pride, gratitude, and pain. Glory, he finally said, his voice low, what you did today, you didn't just protect your dignity. You changed my life. Her brows furrowed. What do you mean? Harrison took a deep breath. There is something I have hidden from you. Something I needed to be sure about before telling you. The room was silent except for the sound of her breathing. I am not poor, he said calmly. Glory blinked. What? He continued before she could speak. Daniel is my younger brother. Mrs. Walker is my mother. The words fell like thunder. For a second, Glory thought she had misheard. Her heart raced, her mind spinning. Your brother? Your mother? Harrison nodded slowly. Yes. I am the first son of this house. The business, the properties, the wealth, one day, all of it will be mine. Glory stood up suddenly, her legs unsteady. The room felt too small, too tight. Then why, she asked, her voice trembling. Why live like this? Why lie to me? He stood too, his eyes filled with emotion. Because I needed to know the truth about love. He explained how his family was tired of women who loved money more than character. How his mother feared that any woman who married him would only see wealth, not the man. So he chose to live as a poor security guard, to meet someone who would love him without conditions. But I never planned to involve you like this, he said softly. I didn't know you would be brought to me the way you were. Glory's eyes filled with tears, not of joy yet, but of shock. Was my pain part of a test? She thought. Harrison stepped closer. When Daniel tempted you, when my mother tried to persuade you, that was the final test. And you passed. He reached for her hands. You chose dignity over comfort. You chose loyalty over wealth. That is why I fell in love with you. Tears finally fell down Glory's face. The confusion, the hurt, the disbelief, all mixed together. But beneath it all was one truth she could not deny. He had never treated her badly. Not even once. So, all this time, she whispered, you were watching. I was hoping, he corrected gently. Hoping I had found a woman whose heart was richer than my fortune. She looked at him, really looked at him, and slowly nodded. Then let the truth begin now, she said. And in that moment, the mask fell, but love remained. The girl once sold like payment now wore a crown of honor. Time passed, and life began to unfold in ways Glory had never imagined. The same girl who once walked barefoot through dust now woke up in a world filled with light, opportunity, and purpose. But wealth did not change her heart, it only revealed who she had always been. Harrison kept his promise. He did not rush Glory into a life she was not ready for. Instead, he asked her a simple question, what do you want to become? No one had ever asked her that before. I want to help people, she said after a long pause. I want to heal pain, not just mine. So he supported her dreams quietly and fully. Glory returned to school. At first, it was difficult. She struggled to believe she belonged in classrooms filled with confident students and long textbooks. Some nights, she cried from exhaustion. Other nights, she doubted herself. Can a girl with a broken past truly rise this high? She wondered. But Harrison stood beside her through every step. He encouraged her, prayed with her, and reminded her that her story did not end where her suffering began. Slowly, her confidence grew. Her scars became strength. Years later, Glory stood in a white coat, her name proudly written beneath the title Doctor. The room erupted in applause, but she closed her eyes for a moment, remembering the girl she used to be, the one who had no voice, no future, no choice. She had made it. One afternoon, her father came to see her. Age had bent his back, and regret had softened his eyes. He apologized, his voice shaking with shame. Glory listened quietly. I forgive you, she said at last. But forgiveness does not mean returning to the past. She helped him, but she did not give him power over her life again. Boundaries became her peace. With Harrison, she built a home filled with warmth, laughter, and respect. Their marriage was not loud or proud, it was calm, steady, and deeply loving. They welcomed children who grew up knowing safety, kindness, and truth. Glory never forgot where she came from. She opened free medical clinics for women in villages like Amiri. She spoke to girls who had been silenced, telling them their lives mattered. She was no longer a girl given away like payment. She was a woman who chose dignity, rose through pain, and built a legacy of healing. She lost everything once, only to gain it forever. The mansion stood quietly on the hill, glowing under the soft evening light. It was beautiful, grand, and peaceful, but to Glory, it was not the walls or the wealth that mattered. It was the life inside. She walked slowly through the wide hallway, one hand resting gently on her growing belly. A soft smile touched her lips. Inside her, a new life was forming, a life born not from pain, but from love. From the balcony, Glory looked out over the city. The same world that once frightened her now felt full of promise. She remembered the dusty roads of Amiri, the hunger, the fear, the silence she was forced to live with. The memories no longer hurt, they taught. Harrison stepped beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. What are you thinking about? He asked softly. She leaned into him. Everything, she replied. Where I came from, and where I am now. She thought of the girl who left her village with a plastic bag and tears in her eyes. She thought of the nights she prayed quietly, unsure if tomorrow would be kinder. And now, here she stood, safe, loved, and expecting a child who would never know the pain she once did. If my story changed, maybe others can too, she thought. Do you ever wonder, Glory asked gently, how different life could have been if I had chosen money instead of you? Harrison smiled. Then we wouldn't be standing here. They laughed softly, the kind of laughter that comes after storms have passed. Glory placed her hand over her belly again, feeling a gentle kick. Tears filled her eyes, not of sadness, but of gratitude. She whispered a prayer of thanks for strength, for love, for second chances. She had learned that dignity is worth more than gold. That true wealth is peace. That love tested by hardship becomes unbreakable. As night fell, the mansion lights came on, warm and welcoming. Inside, their home was filled with quiet joy, a reflection of the journey they had survived. Together, Glory's life had come full circle. From rejection to royalty. From silence to voice. From being given away like payment, to being chosen every single day.